And it's time for puzzle solving with Robby, the next edition. So we're going to go ahead and do some puzzles, and we're going to provide my thoughts as we go through, and hopefully this will be helpful to you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do appreciate everybody watching and giving me comments and stuff. So I adjust my camera. And anyway, by the way, I'm broadcasting from Tucson, Arizona. Eat your heart out. The weather is fantastic. Um, the reason that we live here is for this kind of weather. So it's beautiful. High of about 75 and a low of like 55 or 50. So excellent weather here in Tucson. And let's go ahead and get started. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Keep those subscriptions coming. I really appreciate everyone who is writing me private messages and stuff and asking me questions. So anyway, have a good one, and let's check this out. So we're going to do puzzles, and I'm close to my high rating. All right, so what's the first thing we do? Assess. Assess the position. What's the count here? 1, 2, 3. So each side has 6 pawns, 2 minor pieces, 2 rooks, 2 queens, and all that. White's king is under attack here currently. You notice what Black's last move was, though. It took a pawn and it hangs the rook on c4. So this is one of those puzzles where we're going to have to decide: do we want to take the pawn with anything, or do we want to go ahead and fully calculate the variation and take the rook on c4? So let's take a look. Let's do some calculation. So the candidate moves, of course, is taking the pawn. But the first one we got to look at is queen takes c4, because if that wins, then that's the end of the analysis. There's nothing more to look at. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say queen takes c4 is the first move we've got to look at. And then if rook takes b2, we have probably king a1. If king c1, maybe queen a3 could be a problem. So let's do the most obvious. Queen takes c4, rook takes b2, king a1. Okay, so what's the threat there? Well, black's down a rook, but he's got some play here. Looks very, very scary for white. So let's see. Well, in some ways, by process of elimination, we can figure out that we can't even take the pawn on c3 because of that pin. So, for example, if knight takes pawn here, then knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes, and black just loses, or black just wins a piece because of this pin here. So queen takes is just forced. There's nothing to look at here. All right. So then if king c1, we got to look at bishop h6. Yikes, that looks really scary after f4 takes. So I think that you have to play here. There's no choice. All right. And now in this position, so sometimes when you're playing games, you have to play the only move. You can't figure every single thing out, so you do have to be practical at some point. But right now, we can't afford to go any deeper, or we can't afford to be too choosy here. So, all right, what do we got here? So, if the queen checks on c8, we have king f7. That is possible. We got to look at that. Do we play bishop takes c3 here, which would pin the rook? The problem with that is if bishop takes c3, he's got bishop takes e5, and that diagonal is going to be horrible for white, and his king is completely stuck on this square. So I'm going to guess that that's not the move, but let's keep going. I'm also worried about rook a4 type of moves too, so we have to be careful here. Can't take the rook, of course. Well, even though it looks scary as heck, I think we do need to take a look at this bishop takes c3 move. He's not going to take the rook because we take his queen, but as we said before, we have bishop e5. So can we make bishop takes c3, bishop e5, and then do we have a move like rook d4, which could be annoying? So let's take a look at that. I'm gonna take all the arrows off the board because it's driving me crazy. All right, so bishop takes or rook d4. Rook d4. If he takes. Okay, so sorry for that pause. Just trying to calculate here. So if bishop takes c3, okay, we already said you couldn't take the queen. So if bishop takes e5. If knight to d4, the problem is he's going to take here, and if we take the queen, he's going to get this, and that's major compensation. So don't buy that. So if bishop takes c3, bishop to e5, do we have rook d4? Is that any better? Rook takes, bishop takes. Bishop takes is the exchange, but we're not dead there. Okay, so I think we can give that a shot. We can give that at least a shot for purposes of candidate moves. Anything else? The only thing I was sort of thinking about was queen c8, king f7, and bishop takes c3. That just doesn't seem right, because then he's going to take this guy and he's going to get the bishop to e5. So I think we're going to go ahead and go for this. I think bishop takes c3 is the only choice. Okay? And I'm really shocked that he did that, because that makes it much easier. All right. So that's sort of a cop-out. I wish chess.com on these higher level puzzles would not be so engine inclined, because that didn't require any analysis at all. But let's go ahead and check out what I was looking at here, and we'll see if we'll go ahead and go here. So if takes here, rook b4. So if takes, the move we were analyzing was bishop e5, and that really should be part of the puzzle. What I was trying to explain was that if bishop takes e5, we have rook takes c4, and that loses. So here we actually have to come with a right move. There's no queen takes that makes any sense, because we can just simply take with a queen, or the knight, actually. So that doesn't look so good. And so we're going to have to move something to d4. Although, now that I look at it some more, yeah, no, I think we have to do that. So what I was looking at was let's take a look at rook d4. And that is really not good now that I see it. Takes. So here we're actually down a pawn. So we kind of really screwed this up. So that was really bad. So is it knight d4? Okay. And is that any good? And it's the same problem. Oops, sorry. No. Losing my mind again. Hold on. So black should have something here. Yeah, it's just this. That's the problem. And now we're on this guy. Okay, so we have to actually have to find the defense here, which is, all right, now that I look at it some more, now I see that we're going to use this check to our advantage. We're going to check here, and then we're going to take this guy. And we're up a rook. King's a little bit weak, but nothing that white can't defend. So, yeah, I got it right, but I actually didn't see the entire thing. So, need to do a better job on that going forward. Okay, so we're going to go back to those. So we're going to go here. All right, so we're going to keep going. So we got two in a row, but this is not exactly what I was thinking was going to happen. Okay, so here, what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 pawns versus 3. So white is up. I'm sorry, white's down 2 pawns. He has a potential h5 move, which is a passed pawn. But just looking real quick, I see that if h5, black could play knight g8. And unless there's some mating net, which I'm not sure of, I'm not sure you're going to win that. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. This looks like a study of some sorts. So we're assuming that white's trying to win this. And then the other thing is, in this position, you got to look to see if there's any checks. If bishop f5 check, knight takes. If takes, then of course, then just gh and black's winning. And if bishop f5, knight f5 is hg anything, kind of doubt it. Well, we got to look at it. Although bishop f5, you can just simply play. Oh, that's not so sure though. Okay, all right. So, all right, so I'm starting to see some potential stuff here. So what I'm looking at here is if h5, that forces the knight to go here. The fact that the knight is on a white square and so is the king, and the potential that the king might have to come out here is definitely something we need to use to our advantage. So let's see if we can think of a way to make that happen. So if h5, knight g8, bishop f5 check, and then if the king moves, we have the fork on e6, but he could play e4. So now I'm wondering, is there a zugzwang there? I don't think so, but we got to look at this, because this is definitely the move, or definitely the idea, because otherwise white just loses. So he's got to play. We're going to go ahead and play h5 because we know that has to be played. And then we got to figure out, are we going to tempo the knight? Knight h6, the king is I can smell it. But I don't see it. I do like bishop f5 check just because it forces e4, and then the pawn cannot move. But I don't see what to do after that. It's got to be a zugzwang. It's got to be something where he can't move at all. I don't want to miss this one because I feel like I'm close. So if bishop f5 check, e4, I just don't think, I don't see what's going to happen there. Because then he has c5, c4, c3, and I don't see that works. Is there any zugzwang we can do? All right, so here's a thought. Is there a way, for zugzwang purposes, can we get a position where the knight is on h6, white's bishop is on e6, okay? And if we play bishop f5, he can never take it. I just don't see how you're going to get rid of this knight here. Okay, so there's got to be something else. If we take this guy, I hate to give up. Okay. Yeah, I missed it. Yeah, not so good, not so good. So let's see if we can, find, is it this? It is this. All right, let's check the answer. Oh my goodness. That's just that should be against the law. That's not fair. That's clearly a study. All right, I want to see this again. But so we did have the right idea, but what I missed was that getting a pawn here and a pawn here, that if c3, I forgot that there's a mate over here. And if he moves the other pawn to e3 while there's a pawn on c4 and d4, there's bishop f5. All right, so let's check this out. Let's see if we can actually replicate that. Okay, so knight g8. Oh. All right, so we're going to try it again. h5, bishop f5, and then bishop here. That makes sense because it threatens checkmate. And if he plays e3, that was what we were talking about earlier, because then we have bishop f5 check, king c4, and then bishop to e6 picking up the knight, which is what we were aiming for. I forgot about the checkmate. So now c5, okay. That's just nasty. Oops, still got it wrong. All right, so let's look at it one more time. So h5, knight g8, bishop f5, e4, threatening checkmate, c5, bishop d7, threatening. Yeah. So let's go back one move. If he plays e3 instead, that's the point. Sorry. If he plays e3, this is checkmate here, if that's what we missed. And if c3, we've got this. And if he doesn't move at all, then it's still checkmate as a threat. So that's just a nasty puzzle. All right, I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that. But still very good to solve studies. It is very helpful. Okay, so here white is up 2 pawns. White's king is very airy. Black is definitely safer, although I wouldn't say it's super safe himself. Okay, so the first thing I notice in this position when I'm looking at it is I do see that the rook and the queen are on the same diagonal. I don't see that that's going to play a role because the rook is hanging. So my candidate moves in a position like this is we look at moves like queen f3 is 1. The real candidate move actually is queen f6. That I like a lot more because now that threatens the rook. And if the rook moves away, we can take on g4. So if queen f6, if white moves his rook to h5, for example, we have rook takes g4. And that looks really scary. Yeah, so we're gonna take a chance on this, and I missed it. Oh my goodness, what is wrong with me? So let's see if we can solve this any better. So I don't see the follow-up after queen f3, rook e1. If queen f3, rook e1, rook takes g4, takes, king f1. What's the answer? Well, it's the only other move that makes sense. All right, so now we're going to solve this here. So the only thing that's preventing us from just winning on the spot is we can't get our rook over to g8. Okay. Oh, isn't that cute? All right, I'll pause it real quick, see if you can see where the win is. Okay. One of those little sneaky moves you gotta watch for. F6. Yeah. Okay. So rather than going for the big shebang, this is just really good. All right. So yeah, that was terrible. Terrible analysis on my part. All right, we're gonna do another one. Oh goody, another study. I can't wait. All right. So here we have a position 2 knights versus 2 bishops. Everybody has a passed pawn. The only difference, of course, is that black's is farther advanced. Okay. If it was, yeah, black really doesn't even have a threat here necessarily. He can't really play a2, but what he is threatening is knight to d3, the f knight to d3, which guards the knight, so he can play a2. So that looks like it's going to be part of the solution. But again, we gotta go farther. So, for example, if this knight goes here and the bishop retreats, there's no way to stop a2. It's just there's nothing there. So where do you think the trick is? I think the trick is if knight to d3, they're looking at moves like bishop d6, threatening c6, moving the bishop away and going for c7. So a little hidden position, little hidden thing in the position. So we got to anticipate this because the bishops are so strong, and white is 3 moves away from queening after the bishop moves. Black's only 2, but a couple of those are A couple of those are with check, and you always have to worry about the checks here. So if knight to d3, bishop d6, king to d8, we just got to calculate this. If bishop e6, oh, isn't that cute? We can take on c5. We can avoid that. Yeah. So I'm going to go with it. Knight to d3, king d8. Oh no, and I missed it again. Oh my goodness. So what's wrong with what I was thinking? Because I'm a moron and I forgot about bishop e6. That was really stupid. All right, so that means that the king has to go somewhere else. And we have to guard that square, which means we got to go to one of these squares, which means that one of them is correct and one of them is not. So king f7 allows king f5 because we can go here. So it's got to be king f6. Yep. And then we're going to go ahead and play a2. Yep, just got to be a lot more careful, not be so impatient in the position. It's really, really hard, especially when you think it's just it's an easy win, but there's always these resources, and if you don't calculate, you're going to mess up. So yeah, I've dropped quite a few points today. So we're definitely not ending on that one. We always got to end on a win. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7. So 7 pawns each, a queen and a king each. Unfortunately, white has this extra bishop here. What's black's compensation? The king is weak as heck. Okay, so we got to analyze the candidate moves in the position. A couple things just to note. Queen takes h2 is obviously the move we have to calculate. But just notice that any kind of a cute move like queen e3 is just going to fail to takes, and white can easily stop the pawn from advancing. In fact, you could even take this first and then come back. So queen e3 checks aren't even going to be aren't going to be even part of this game. I don't think the d4 pawn will end up mattering. So what do we do here? This looks pretty easy, which always gives me the uneasy feeling. Because queen takes h2 check. If king g5, then we have king to g7. And that threatens queen h6 check, winning the queen. It also threatens queen h5 mate. So if we take, I'm guessing white has to play king to g4. So is there anything there? Do we have an h5 check? King g5, king g7. In that position, queen g3 check is a threat. If the queen goes to e1 to stop it, we have queen f4, which is good. Or is it? Can you still go to h3? All right, well, this is definitely the move. There's not even a question about that. All right, so here we got to calculate. Does this give us anything? No, because the king can simply walk back and there's no mates. Okay, queen f4 check is obviously bad. Can't take the pawn. So do we play h5 or do we play king g7? If h5, king g5, queen g3 check, king f6, and he escapes, it's bad, unless there's some other trick that we're missing. Whenever these high-rated puzzles are part of it, I always get a little nervous. So if h5 check, king g5, we'll take the time out to play king g7 because that guards both h6 and f6. It threatens queen to g3, which is mate. And we said if queen e1, we have queen h4, so that should be good. So we're going to go ahead and play. Well, we got to calculate. Is this better or is h5 better? The move order always matters. Can't be careless. If h5 check, that forces the king up, king g7. Is there anything that stops queen g3 mate? Anything. If queen e1, we have queen f4, so that should be good. No bishop move. So what's the difference? What's wrong with king g7? Always scares me. Oh, it's queen f. No, it's not queen f2. It still loses. You see one win and you think it's good, but again, it always makes me question because chess.com doesn't have two answers. So you're either right or you're wrong. Well, this is now starting to bug me because there should be a way to stop both of them. So if king g7, is there something we're missing? Oh, that's what we're missing. He has f4. That's why. That's the difference between the two. So yeah, we got to play h5 check first, and then we got to play king g7. All right, and then this hangs the queen. So yeah, I only got 1 point for that because I took so long. But I think it is important that you understand and see the differences. So what we were analyzing was, is king g7 any better? And after looking at some stuff, like I saw g3 hangs the queen, advancing the king just leads to mate. And if any bishop move or queen move, I have h5 check. So let's take a look at that actually on the analysis board. So we're going to go ahead and go here, king to g4, and then h5, king g5, king g7, and of course white played g4 because it delays mate for a few moves. But again, the human move is queen e1. That stops queen here, and if queen here, we have this, and that's not as good. But of course, just queen f4 is mate. So let's compare that to what my other idea, king g7 here. If f4, okay, then obviously this is defended. Okay, the checks in the position are h5 and queen h5. If queen h5, king g3, no more checks of substance. And if h5 check, we get to run. And that's the difference between the two. So always look and see. Compare the two moves. See if there's anything different. And anytime in a position like this, you can make the king advance. That means they have fewer retreating options. Okay? So lost some points today. Did not do as well as I should have. Got a little too quick on the draw. And you got to be careful because it's easy to do that in chess. So anyway, hope you enjoyed these solving and seeing my mistakes. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thanks for tuning in.